Hey guys, my name's Sam and welcome to the Driving Home Reviews podcast. This is a podcast that features mine and my girlfriend Hannah's unfiltered, spoiler-filled thoughts about films we've just seen on the drive home. Just a heads up, there's a lot of strong language, full spoilers, obviously, and a lot of comments about what we see on the road, so we hope you enjoy. Welcome back to, what we're calling a sitting home review, because obviously there's no driving because you can't drive home from your house, Yeah, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about Midnight Mass, which is the new horror series from Mikey Mike Flanagan, who did The Hill House and Bly Manor, and he also did Doctor Sleep as well, which is a bit of a banger. So I'd recommend go watching that as well, because it's a good film, because it's the sequel to The Shining. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. It's basically just about an island that has about 120 people or so on it, and then this new youngish sexy priest arrives on the island and some weird stuff starts happening. Not that, but it's just I mean, well, you're going to find out anyway because we just talk about it straight from the off. Let's have a listen and see what we thought. Right, let's talk about Mass, baby.
I'm not sure I want to.
Bit of a one, wasn't it?
It was a bit of a one. But you know what?
No? Tell me.
Yeah, classic Mike Flanagan.
Mickey F.
Episodes 1 to 5.
Wait, you're just coming through, are you? Then you can. Nope, sweet. Oh, I can't drive too fast, I'm going to bed.
Excuse me. Yeah, you can move over as well.
Hey, get my fucking way.
Thanks. Those do the rules of the road. Yeah, classic. Episode 1 to 5. Like, so much talking.
Yeah, there was a lot of talking and a lot of gospels.
There was a lot of talking, and I think because it was based around religion, I found myself not being very interested in what they were talking about.
Yeah, I get that. I
It's
get it.
sad.
Fucking scooter, you.
Scoot. But yeah, kind of redeemed itself in the last 2 episodes, though. Classic.
So overall, how did you feel about it?
Take it or leave it. It's my least favourite of the 3.
Interesting. So I preferred that more than Bly Manor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think the stuff that it was about, I just found more interesting than Bly Manor.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was a lot easier. I don't know if it's because Bly Manor, you're just there this isn't Hill House, so it's not as good as.
Yeah.
And it's a hell of a lot easier to poke fun at Bly Manor.
Yeah.
Because I'm not enjoying it as much as Hill House.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much. So, yeah, I just didn't. That's not saying obviously Bly Manor bad or anything like that. I just, this definitely not as good as Hill House. Like I said, I just think the stuff that it brings up and the way it goes about it is way more interesting than some of the stuff they bring up in Bly Manor.
Yeah. I don't really bring up anything in Bly Manor.
Well, yeah, it was just a love story, but a sad love story, wasn't it? That was all it was, and it felt like it was. It felt like it was, I don't know, maybe a bit of a course correction / redo of Hill House, but they were like, well, we're going to make it a bit less depressing, and we're going to make the characters considerably less sad.
Yeah.
And it's going to be all about love rather than just a bunch of, quite frankly, horrible people living together as a family and trying to make it work.
Yeah.
Whereas, because I feel like Hill House was a very realistic depiction of a family, whereas I don't know. But anyway, we're not here here to talk about Hill House and Blind Manor, are we?
No.
But yeah, I mean, you know me, I don't like religion at the best of times. So.
Oh no, so that's why I'm surprised that you...
Well, yeah, it's because it wasn't about the religion. It was just about like the way people reacted to stuff and the hypocrisy and bullshit. Well, obviously, it's not about that. It's about, you know, how each individual's like religion and blah 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 blah. You know, because obviously you get the different characters' faith being tested throughout it, yada yada yada. But like, you know, it's I don't know. It's sort of like that. You know, it's a very interesting thing that they've just decided to. The way they go about it, because obviously it's that like depiction of like misinformation throughout literal years.
Yeah.
Of like, you know, Christianity and all that sort of stuff. You know, they literally said it, didn't they? They're like, you know, it's all been diluted.
Yeah.
And it's all been like misconstrued and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I just
changed and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, like what what's his name? Raoul was what his character says, you know, when he's like, you know, they read the Bible. He's like, you know, we studied the Bible.
Yeah.
And the way we interpret it is, we're not saying that it's not any different. It is the same, like, you know, everyone's just like a prophet of God and all that sort of stuff. You know, everyone's a messenger. But having read the Bible, we just think that everything because he's had so many messengers and so many prophets and all that sort of stuff, it's all been twisted and all that sort of stuff. And I feel like, obviously they decided to do an allegory of that with vampires. Which is just, you know, obviously someone's blind, devout faith is just them interpreting something which is inherently evil / bad for them.
Yeah.
And just poisoning their own mind against them because they are so like, oh, this is...
And making them think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and, you know, taking that into like their own community and just like poisoning the well, so to speak, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just like ruining everyone else's religious takes and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, it's also really refreshing because you don't get many vampire things these days.
No. I feel like the vampire era kind of came and went in the 2010s. You know? No?
I'd say...
Twilight, Vampire Diaries.
Well, yeah, but that was like early 20s.
Stuff.
Like late 2000s, early 20s. That's just me being pedantic. But yeah, like why isn't it? Why is it
kind of thing?
Well, yeah. So who cares?
No, I'm not beefing it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like it's about time that someone did something different with it.
Yeah.
You know, it just made it sound like you were like, yeah, it's done. Who gives a shit?
No.
It had its time.
Yeah, it hasn't been done in a while.
But yeah, like and go about it in a very different way. It was quite refreshing.
Yeah.
But like, how did no one realise they were vampires? Because I don't know. I was like, if it was me, I'd be like, I know I'd go get my garlic. Because they're all there, like, you know, and I like the whole like science versus religion side of it, you know. And she was like, oh well, actually, I think it's a bit of a blood disorder, and you know, combustion, and I was like, you haven't seen the literal thing with wings, like, you know. But then I quite like that, you know. It was like, right, there's a reasonable explanation for it, and then it's like, nope, there isn't.
There isn't.
Yeah, and I was like, I thought that was quite like.
I think she thought there was a reasonable explanation until she saw the angel thing.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
And it all just went like tits up. I mean, that was when it literally all went fucking tits up. But no, I liked that side of it. But again, like this isn't like the 50s or the 60s or something where these sort of... I mean, I know obviously it's a horror TV series. Like in Hill House, they were very aware of like spooky things and tried to disprove it.
Yeah.
With the main guy who wrote the book, didn't he? And then there was that point where he was like, "Yep, cool, ghosts, yep." And they addressed ghosts.
Yeah.
They didn't even say the vampire word once in this, which I get because you're obviously trying to not make it just a vampire see, and he was just so like brainwashed with religion that he was like, oh my god, it's a sign. And it's like
every single thing they somehow managed to relate it back to something in the Bible to make it like to justify it to themselves and be like, oh, this is, which is why it's all up to interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah,
but that's the whole point.
Yeah, and it's
you
just
can interpret
interesting
in good ways or bad ways.
Yeah, which is very true, because you get those fucking people, don't you? You get those people and you're like you know, all the like the toing and froing of religion of like, well, why doesn't God do this? Why doesn't God do that? Yeah. And then they're like, well, you know, God works in mysterious ways, sort of thing. And it is just like, you know, this blind faith in something. Yeah. That is. They don't necessarily like. I don't feel like this was necessarily like a scathing attack on religion.
No, I don't think it was.
I just think it's quite a reasonable, documented like presentation of ideas. Yeah. Obviously twisted into a very supernatural, kind of scary way.
Yeah. But then, you know, it's a TV show. It's for entertainment.
Yeah, because otherwise, without the vampire bit, it would be rather boring.
It would. Yeah.
But I just really liked that side of it, because, you know, someone who's not religious, who doesn't sort of believe in all that sort of jazz, but will I know I shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but if someone comes up to me and they're like, I'm a devout Christian and I do everything that God says and does, and I don't shackle that faith. Yeah. I'm someone who's very much like, that will make me second guess someone, because I'll be like, really? Yeah. Like, you know, and I feel like this is a show, well, you'd hope that this is a show that it sort of lends itself to both sides, I think. I think that's what's quite refreshing about it, because he's not like, religion is fucking shit, you know, it's not like at the end of it he comes away and he's like, religion is awful, like, how dare they, like, and he's not, it's not either side of the coin, is it? It's not like, oh, actually, religion was quite good in the end, actually, and, you know, because the Lord blessed everyone. It was just like, you know, it was more about, you know, each individual person finding their faith, something to believe in, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But just with the lens of a spooky vampire. Yeah. And, you know, pointing out the flaws in those people that are so inherently whatever. Yeah. But then, you know, not judging the people who don't. That, you know, they're religious and they do believe in, like, you know, the Lord's work and miracles and all that sort of stuff. And I thought the inclusion of Sheriff Hassan, you know, Raoul, I thought that storyline was really interesting. I mean, obviously it points out again, you know, that sort of like, because fucking Bev Keane, oof, what a horrible bitch. What a bitch. Again, it's like prime example of someone who is just so devout
but like not in a good way.
No, like in a purely like corrupted.
Yeah.
Like
when Annie was talking to her, not before she killed herself. Yeah. And she was like, oh, like, why do you think that God should love you more than anyone else?
Yeah. And I really liked that bit as well. That sort of like tear down of it, of like, you know, when she was like, oh, well, your son, like, he killed someone and all that sort of stuff. And then she was like, well, yeah, but God loves him as much as he loves you, so...
Yeah, like, you know, this...
Fuck it.
This being that you believe in so passionately, but yet you still don't fully understand the whole idea of him and how, he's not, you know, loves one person more than another. And
he is just, like, you know, if he is out there, he's just accepting of everyone, even if you're not. And
exactly.
It is, she was just like the prime example of, like, you know, twisted. Yeah. Twisted and so, like, in her own faith. And I really liked that as well, how they sort of like set it up throughout the whole series to, you know, obviously, you know, when they said about the oil spill, and then how like Bev like encouraged everyone to take the money, and then she like she created the rec centre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She created, and then lo and behold, when it all came to it at the end, and everyone was coming to her like parish, and she was like now the new minister.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you know, she's so devout that she can't even become like, she doesn't even register about being a priest or like anything like that, because she knows, well, obviously I don't know if you can or can't in Catholicism, because was it Catholic or Christian? I get confused between the two. I'm probably going to offend someone.
I think it was Christianity.
Yeah.
I think.
And like, yeah, I just love that, you know, how she just essentially, she was doing everything. It felt like as soon as she found out about the big priest being a minister, it was just like everything she did, it felt like she was always manipulating it and twisting it. And then I just loved the way it sort of like all came together at the end, and she was just like, she was there, she was picking and choosing who was in her like parish, who was going into her church, who was going to be saved, and she just loved that, like that God trip. And I was like, she's an awful character. My God, they've done her a cracking story arc. And I just loved it. And then how it all just like came to nothing, you know. At the end of it all burnt down and she lost everything. And it was like, that was it. Like, you're not someone who's like, you don't care about God, you just care more about yourself and how like your own ideals and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was literally, you know, the building, the bricks in the wall were torn down and burnt alive and all that sort of shit. But there were still people who needed guidance, and you just sort of like went a bit mental. Like you didn't try and rally them, didn't try and help them. Whereas like, you know, you compare that to like, was it Monsignor? Monsieur?
Yeah. No, I think it was Monsignor.
Yeah, the father.
Yeah.
You know, he literally just like seen.
He did like a full 180, didn't he?
Yeah. And again, I never felt like he was. It never felt like he was the bad guy.
No, it really didn't.
Because like everything he did, it was sort of like you could feel was like coming from a place of like religion and just like everything that he'd known up until that was, it was like his body and his like his mind was telling him that this was it. This is everything that he'd been waiting for. And you know, all the miracles and stuff that he performed and stuff, like, you know, it was just like, this is a sign.
Yeah, exactly.
But he just
you would think that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you were in his shoes,
yeah.
He was like really old and was like getting dementia and things like that, and then this great thing happens to you. Of course, you'd be like, right, well, it's my time.
And it is like that sort of like general thing, you know, who's at like the lowest of, and like quite often you'll hear, don't you know, when you hear people who are at like their lowest of lows, and then they find religion and then it saves their lives, and then it's sort of like, you know, and he was at that point, wasn't he? You know, he was like dementia ridden in the desert, and then he just found this thing that was like restored his faith, restored his health, brought him back from the edge.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, if you take that as an analogy for religion, then it's like, you know, it's obviously saved his life, and he just wants to share it with the rest of the world, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously it's a bad thing, but that shouldn't necessarily be like the most religious thing in the world. It should be like the worst thing in the world. But yeah, like I said, it's just, I just found it so interesting, and like, yeah, just the depictions and stuff that it did of religion. I think that's why I was like, I'm really enjoying this. But then, like, again, vampires don't see them very much anymore.
No,
so I think that's why I was like, it's a welcome change.
Yeah.
Because I was a bit, I know I said to you, like, because obviously I'd seen the initial like teaser trailer. Had you seen anything else?
No, I don't think so.
And all it was, there's a bit of a weird island, there's a storm. That was about it, really. Like, that's all I really knew from the trailer, and that's all I retained.
Yeah.
And that all happened in the first episode.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think I was more relieved, because I was like, I just hope it's not another sort of like Hill Housey thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, like, don't get me wrong, if it had been that, I'm sure it would have been great, it would have been good. But I was just a bit like, I think I was more relieved.
Yeah, because he'd done ghosts twice already.
Yeah,
It's like,
and
they're
I'm
really
like,
going to be ghosts again.
yeah, and I'm like, you've done those really well. You've done them good. Like,
Yeah.
there's no need for another. Like, I feel like that's the thing. He couldn't have necessarily gone in another way. I mean, he maybe could have, but yeah, I think that's because I feel like that's the thing that sort of like hinges it on a bit, really, that people either like really like it or really hate. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things, because obviously,
Yeah.
you know, there is a lot of religious talk. My God,
Yeah.
is there a lot of hymns as well?
Yeah.
Like,
Because I wasn't, well, I said to you, I wasn't mad keen on the idea of the vampires in the beginning, but then I was just kind of like, okay, like, we'll go with
Yeah.
it, that's fine.
and I feel like that's why I was a bit like, sure.
I definitely became more accepting of it. I was like, alright then.
So I think in the back of my head, I was like, oh, they are, because I know we said
They
about
are,
it.
yeah.
We did say about it, didn't we? At some point, we were like,
Yeah.
is it like a vampire or something? I think it was when he was flying
Like,
or
joked
something,
about
wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, he's a vampire.
I think it was with the cats, because they all had their, like, necks.
Yeah,
Bit.
that was it. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's just a classic vampire thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. and I was like, I did think in my head when it was more or less confirmed that I was like, all right, okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I like it. Like, you know, it did take me a minute, and I was a bit like, am I all right with this?
Yeah.
And then I sort of thought back, and I was like, I think I am all right, because you know, I hadn't set my expectations to anything,
Yeah.
and I was very much. I feel like a bit like with *Malignant*, you know, it was just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm just so
Just
like,
going.
I'm just so like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Just going with
like,
it.
lay it on me.
Yeah.
And that's very much what this felt like, where I was just like, whatever you've got, lay it on me. I'll have it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's gonna be good. But I liked that it was sort of like a slow burn, like,
Yeah.
thing.
It's always a slow burn with him, isn't it?
It is. But I feel like with vampires and stuff, it's always like a one gets got,
Yeah.
and then it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what I quite liked about it, because it was sort of like quite slow, sort of explained quite a bit of it. Because I quite liked, you know, obviously when they turned Riley.
Yeah.
We haven't really discussed because
Oh, we haven't got that yet. Oh.
about it, but like, you know, when he gets turned,
Yeah.
I quite like that bit. You know, where they're like, where he's just talking him through it, and he's like, "This is fucking weird," and then the priest's like, "Yeah, it is." But
Yeah. He's like, right, let's have it out.
yeah, and I
Complete honesty, like,
I really liked that bit. The fucking priest, I thought was really good.
he was really good.
Yeah. Again, it's quite hard for someone to do a bad job in one of these Mike Flanagan flicks, I think,
Yeah.
because you have to. I feel like you gotta have a degree of acting chops about you.
Oh god, yeah, definitely.
Because you get a lot of monologues, and you're gonna be quite upset at a few points.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
I feel like he does a good job at choosing people out. Like,
yeah. And I mean, yeah, he's got a few people that he's worked with before. But I'm like, at the same time, you know, these are people that do the job.
yeah.
So
Well, exactly.
you might as well get them back. Like,
If they're gonna do the job well, then
they understand the assignment.
yeah. Why wouldn't you use them?
Yeah, and I just but yeah. So when obviously he gets transformed into another vampire.
Yeah.
And then they have that whole conversation, and then he's just sort of explaining it all, and he's like, yeah, look, and I quite like that he took the time to explain the rules of these vampires, because I'm like, everyone sort of like knows it, and like, you know, but I like that, you know, he did it where it was like, oh, you know, everything looks different, everything smells different, you know, but I quite liked, you know, when he, bless you,
Thank you. Everything looks
you know,
different, smells different.
yeah, you know when Bev comes in, and she's
Yeah.
like, you sure about this? And he was like, no, come on in.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really do anything until he's like really close to her,
Yeah.
and that's when it's sort of. And I was, because I did think I was like, I'm just gonna be able to smell them, but then I remembered back to that scene, and I was like, no, he establishes that you have to be quite close, because you know, obviously when there's a whole church full of people
Yeah.
who were like, you know,
Yeah.
and I thought thought, how are any of these guys going to? Because they're just going to follow them. They're just going to find them.
Too, yeah.
And then I'm like, no, because they had to be in like a
Quite
vicinity
close, yeah.
to like find them. Because I thought, well, this is going to be like, you might as well just kill them in the church. There's no point writing them as they run around doing whatever, because they're just going to find them.
Yeah.
Whereas it was like, and I feel like because they felt like human vampires as well, because they weren't transformed into the ghoul vampire or whatever.
Yeah, they didn't even have like pointy teeth or anything like that.
Yeah, they were
like,
just, and they were just
shiny
like,
eyes. Yeah.
just like, well, good soup. Good soup. Yeah, like I just, because I just feel like, you know, vampires could be, because it could have quite easily turned into like a Twilight sort of thing, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas like, oh, it's just a village full of super-powered vampires.
Yeah.
Just like ripping each other's limbs off and like, and I did think, I was like, he's gonna have like a load of like questionable CGI / like ropey stuff where these people are just fighting. But I quite liked that it was just like, you know, they are still normal. They're just hungry as a bit like zombies, like zombie vampire things.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think I said that it was a bit like New Moon in the sense that, oh wait, no, it's Eclipse, isn't it? Where they've got all the like baby vampires. And Biggie's like making an army of baby vampires, and they're all really hungry because they've like just turned. And they don't know how to control their hunger and stuff like that. So it was a little bit like that, but not to the extreme of, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. They were kind of ripping into people a little bit.
Yeah, but like
some more than others.
But it was usually like a gang of them.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? You know.
Yeah.
Or it was like a big burly dude jumping on top of like a woman. I know it sounds awful, but like, you know, that, because they're not necessarily like super strong dudes. Like,
no,
I mean,
they're
obviously
probably
they're just
hungry.
They're just blokes who are
because they're massive.
Starving. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was usually like a gang of them, wasn't it? Like knocking on doors and like kicking, and I feel like that was the horror.
Yeah.
The horror.
But that's why he didn't want them to leave.
Yeah.
That's why he was like, keep the doors locked. And she was like, nah, fuck you, I'm gonna open the doors and release them.
Yeah, and it was just like, that was when it was like, when he sort of like, after he got shot in the head, the priest, and then he sort of like was like,
oh, fuck.
and he was like, shut the fucking doors, and she was like, nah, open the doors, fucking let them loose, and he was like, no, this is completely wrong.
Yeah.
This isn't what we...
This is not
God
the
damn
plan.
It. And I was like...
This isn't the plan, Bev.
You fucking cow. But yeah, and I think the pacing of it as well, of like, just not like, he's going mental and slowly turning the whole town. It, like, you know, it wasn't like a slow... It wasn't like, oh, he bit one person, oh, he bit another one. Because I thought, oh god, it's going to be every night, isn't he? He's going to go out into the, like, the very desolate streets and, like, get one person at a time. And, like, oh, slowly he's going to have, like, a whole gang of vampires.
Yeah.
And it, like, they were literally, the people who were doing his gang, they weren't even vampires.
Yeah.
Like, they hadn't even been converted by then. They were just so, again, devout because of, like, the way that the truth had been, like, misconstrued into, like, a whole religious, like, mindset.
Yeah.
They just like, yep, blind faith. I'm going to follow it. I'm going to go whatever. I'm going to do whatever. And it's like, I think that was like the thing. It's not as, I mean, Hill House isn't particularly like jump scary horror, is it? It's like a slow burn.
Yeah.
Like a suspense one.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was a different type of horror.
Yeah.
Because it was like, because you know me, shockingly, I'm not a fan of cults. But I just feel like this was a very good representation of like how cults start and how like, you know, religion and like ideals can get completely misconstrued into something that's like, something that's not even like, you know, initially it was good intentions ish from a bad place, but it just sort of goes like completely off the rails.
Yeah.
And I know it's a very extreme example,
which is, you know, I don't know much about cults, but I imagine that's maybe how most cults start. Is there's like one really
charismatic leader, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And that's usually like they'll do one or two things that could be a parlour trick. Usually are a parlour trick to get people on board, you know.
Yeah. And and then it just turns into this whole thing.
Yeah, of just people not knowing what they've seen and being so like, this is it. This is the be all and the end all. This is the end and the beginning and all that sort of shit. But yeah, I just thought I just really liked that aspect of it. And like I said, I think everyone pulls in a great shift in this.
Yeah.
You know,
They do.
my only beef. You know me. I do enjoy a good monologue from Mike Flanagan. This was very egregious, wasn't it? There was a lot of these. There was a point where they did 2 of them back to back.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, when was it Erin and oh god, what was his name? I said it.
Riley.
Yeah, when Erin and Riley were talking about death.
Yeah.
Again, very poignant, very interesting, like contrasts of like, you know, afterlife and all that sort of stuff. It was really interesting. My god, they go on for a bit, and I was like, all right, because I was like, fair enough when we've had one, and the slow zoom got to him, job's good, and then when it panned to her, and the slow zoom started, I thought, no, surely not. I was like, something's going to interrupt these 2.
Nope.
I was wrong.
No.
Oh lordy, I was wrong, and I was like, oh boy. But I feel like that was the worst example of it.
That was too much.
That was too much.
Yeah.
And then I sort of feel like they toned it down a little bit after that. But yeah, I liked the little, like, I mean, the imagery of his ghost of that woman from the car crash.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Also quite a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
You know, the way the glass was like reflecting the red and blue lights.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Mike Flanagan, you done it again, you bastard. Like, yeah. Great. Looks fantastic. Give him that. I even thought like the creature design of the head vampire, Angel, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, probably about right. You know, it's not like I feel like that is what sort of a demonic creature is. It's like twisted. Because I'm like, if you go any more twisted than that, then he's going to be like, this ain't no fucking, absolutely not. This ain't right.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, you do want to make it a bit more human-esque.
Yeah.
Human-esque.
They said, didn't they? They were like, oh yeah, the first time so and so saw an angel, they were scared.
Yeah, and like.
So it's like, it has to be kind of a little bit scary, but also not terrifying.
Yeah. And like, I know I said this to you before as well, where like, you know, vampires and stuff are meant to be like quite like steeped in like biblical stuff. And I mean, I've only, like, I know bits and bobs about it, mainly because Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
But like, you know, Dracula's meant to be like a fallen angel who got like kicked out of heaven and shit like that, and it's supposed to be like, you know, he's like the false prophet.
Yeah.
And all that sort of thing. So, you know, that's why certain people were devout to him.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff. And I feel like maybe that's what this weird Baldy one was meant to be. Like, you know, a fallen angel.
Especially because he found him like
in like in the Holy Land.
Yeah.
I quite like that as well, because I feel like that was a bit of a reference to, you know, The Exorcist. Because at the beginning of that, they're like, oh, they were doing a dig, and then they found this unholy evil thing or something.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was meant to be like a little sort of like vibey sort of thing, you know, when they're on the holy route and they're in the Holy Land, and you expect only to find like good things, and then you stumble across something that's quite frankly terrifying.
Yeah. That is not a good thing at all.
But, and yeah, it was a bit annoying though, wasn't it? When it was just it became quite obvious that quite a lot of people just had old people makeup on.
Yeah.
And they were just like quite obviously aged up, and it was like, like, could you not?
Mum, especially.
You about the mum?
That mum, yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad. I can't remember half the characters' names, but
I can't remember though. It was the doctor's mum.
Yeah. What was the doctor called? Sarah.
Sarah, yes, Sarah's mum. Was it Erin? No.
No.
said, didn't we, straight away? We were like, it feels like it's really shithole person makeup.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna do something with it, sort of thing.
Even like Riley's parents as well.
Yeah, like they looked well on at the start.
Yeah.
It was like, you know. But I like the subtle tell with those guys. You know, like took the glasses off.
Yeah.
And then like he started getting up a bit better. And it was just that sort of like, what the fuck is going on? Like there's something ain't quite right.
Yeah. I'm still. One thing I'm not 100% on is the whole. So, how some died and some, like, Erin died and didn't come back, but some of them got bitten, and then I thought it was to do with drinking the communion, but then it wasn't to do with drinking the communion, they just got bitten, and then, do you know what I mean? Because, you know, we thought that Raoul's son was going to die because he hadn't drank the communion, but then he didn't die. And he came back to life.
Yeah, that was
But then,
unless maybe he did drink it, I don't know. But you need, with a character like that, you need to show.
I'm like, you need to show it, especially because he said, "I'm not going to do communion."
Yeah, and then
So
it
that
was
would
like, well, how did he
imply
come
that
back?
he
Unless
hadn't done
they'd been like, I don't know. Unless they'd been like doing it anyway and not telling anyone.
Yeah, but then
You need to show them doing that, like. Show, don't tell,
Yeah.
or leave me to assume.
and then obviously the guy at the end, when Bev was like, "No, you can't come in my church," she was like, "Oh, you haven't been to mass in months or years or whatever." So like he wouldn't have drank the communion.
I think that was
so-
because Big Beardy Man, what was his name? Because he said he was like, "Oh, I saved him." So I think he'd
Right.
done the. I think he'd obviously been like they'd chowed down on him,
So all the
and
people.
then they did the,
Yeah.
and then like gave him the blood sort of thing to drink it,
Which is
to,
why
like,
they tried
save
to
them.
do that to Sarah as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
'Cause
to
she
like
wouldn't-
try and save her, and she was like,
wouldn't
"Fuck
go
this,
away.
this ain't right," and then she was like, "Moo," and they were like, "Oh, sad mum and dad."
Yeah.
Moo.
So basically, all the people in the church, we're going to assume they drank the communion, and that's why they came back to life.
Yeah, and then I think they must have obviously decided to try and save a few people
Yeah.
outside of it, sort
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah, because I think,
Okay.
I think that's why they obviously were drinking the rat poison. Was because obviously the people who had been at mass had the communion, so they
Yeah.
were,
So they
were
would-
going to come back.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, maybe should have cleared that up.
It was-
with
that
Raoul's
was a
son
bit-
that sort of put me off.
Yeah.
Confused me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that's the point. But again, that sort of like mass suicide thing.
Yeah, God.
Again, something that is quite frankly does happen with like some questionable cults and
Yeah,
stuff.
it does.
But my God, that was fucking
That was
weird.
tense. That was
scene.
so
Ah,
tense. Aye.
Again, like a different kind of horror, wasn't it? 'Cause it was just like, this is
Yeah.
fucking horrific. Like, I'm not a fan of seeing all these people. Fucking,
Yeah.
Especially because I know obviously, like I know it wasn't, but just watching them do it, and you're like, no, you know what that is, and you're willing to drink it
Yeah.
because you're just so like,
Yeah.
oh, it was just so
Especially
like,
when like it was very half and half. You know, they all went in there, minus like Sarah and her mum and stuff. They all went in there with the idea of that they were, you know, really religious and like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great mass, a great vigil. Oh, this is amazing. And then suddenly you see
It
the
just
split and the
turned,
divide
didn't it?
between people that were like completely convinced, and then the others that were like, no, this is crazy. We shouldn't do this.
But then it's like you also had like, you know, because it was like people didn't even have a choice by the end of it. Because
Well,
you had the
no,
people who were like,
didn't.
who'd done their bit, had been resurrected or whatever, and then the other people who got bitten,
Yeah.
got mauled, and then they came back anyway. And
Yeah.
it was just like, fuck. You don't even give them a choice. Which, you know, sometimes religious don't.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the way it is. What was I going to say about that bit? I can't remember. I thought it was just, again, oh no, it was to do with the parents, between the minister and Sarah's mum. That little like twist that he was like, that they were.
He was the dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of
Naughty.
came a bit out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it, didn't hate it.
No, I didn't mind it either.
No, it was, because I did think, you know, when like they sort of saw each other again and she was like getting a bit younger, and they sort of of like recognising each other in like a weird kind of way, didn't
Yeah.
they? And I was like, and then obviously when she was like young, and then when they were just talking about the stuff, and I quite, again, my friend's got a way of like the way he has like conversations with people and all that sort of stuff. It's like always really sad.
Yeah.
Because you know when he was like, oh, you know, if you told me, like if you'd asked, I would have like ran away with you. I'd have been like, fuck the church, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
And just everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so sweet.
That is very sweet.
And if you think about it, it would have
Saved everything.
yeah, like everything would have been sorted, wouldn't it? But like, you know, she was just like, no, I wasn't gonna do that to
Make you do
ruin
that.
4 lives, and all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
it was just sweet, like the whole thing. And then you know when Erin and Riley, when they had their little bit on the boat. And that was so cute, and I was just like, oh, this is so sad.
Oof, that was sad.
He really knows how to nail like moments between characters and like
the emotion.
yeah, he's a corker, isn't he?
It was a good one.
I just thought, yeah, it was pretty good.
And even at the end when they were all singing, when they were about to burn.
Yeah. I just kind of wished that I'd seen a bit more of Raoul and his son.
Yeah.
That was the
I feel like I wish I'd seen a bit more Raoul, to be honest.
Yeah, but the bits he was in, he was great.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I felt like there was... We barely saw him for the last...
Yeah, it felt like there was more of him, sort of like at the beginning, and then it all just sort of...
Yeah, and then they temporarily forgot about him.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck off.
What a bunch of cunts. I think we haven't driven past a petrol station yet.
Honestly, just go home. It's probably people that actually need petrol, though, no?
Yep. I was just thinking that. Like, it's the people who are like, fuck's sake, like, I'm on my way home from work, I need to get some petrol for tomorrow.
But I don't have any.
And there's already dickheads who've already taken it all, because they're all a bunch of dickheads. So, it's like, get fucked. But yeah, I thought he the bits he was in, fantastic. His accent when he first, it felt like his accent got better.
It did. It really
I don't know if
did.
because there were some bits. It might have just been like Stockholm syndrome.
The first like 2 sentences he said, I was like, oh, and I remember we looked at each other like,
and I was like, oh, that's not great.
His accent is not great right now.
But yeah, it definitely got better, I think. There was still like the odd word where I was like, you didn't quite say that American.
Yeah.
It just sounded
that
like
wasn't American enough.
a bit British.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he was really good. I liked the bit, you know, when he went into the school and he said about the, you know, he was explaining like his religion and like their views on Christianity and stuff like that. And then, you know, Bev was just like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, you're a fucking bitch. Because he was like, it's that sort of like, you know, that calm, rational explaining an opinion. And then like a boomer just being like,
having someone that just
like, fuck off,
doesn't want to listen to it.
And it's like all I'm doing is like presenting factual information for you. This is it, and then they're just like,
this is the other side of the argument, and she just wasn't having it.
Yeah, I was just like, he's like the worst type of person.
Yeah.
Just so like in your own point of view and fucking mindset and shit, and I was just like, shut the fuck up. It's just a fucking piss thing.
Thank you for this.
I don't think we've got any petrol.
Love you all.
What was I going to say? Can't remember. Just trying to think if anything else happened.
Well, a lot happened. I want to talk about fucking Dead Joe.
Oh god, that was so sad.
So sad. Oh.
It's even sadder because it was like, you could tell it was like a bit of an accident. Like,
What, the killing of him? Oh god, yeah.
Because it wasn't
He
even.
didn't mean to hit his head on that table.
It wasn't like malicious or anything.
No.
And that was what made it worse, because it was like,
I think
if you'd
because
at least killed him properly. But then I feel like that was when you'd be like, right, he's the bad guy.
Yeah,
Because then
I don't
you'd be
think-
like, right, he's not.
I don't
Like
think I would have liked that.
No.
Because you could tell that he was like fighting off the urge to just fucking rip his neck open and drink his blood.
For as long as he could.
Yeah,
He was there like,
and
I'm hungry.
and then it was just a terrible freak accident
And then he
that
just,
he died.
He just gave in. I mean, I think he'd been struggling with that all day, hadn't he? Pretty been pretty peckish all day. Fucking Bev brought him a chicken coriander soup. I was like, charming.
Oh no. Yeah. I'm starving, but not for this shit.
Yeah, he was
soup you
literally
made
like,
me.
oh my god, I'm so fucking hungry.
Which made me
like,
laugh.
And he was like, yeah.
Not for this though.
Okay. Yeah.
Poor
thought
Joe.
that was, yeah. It was more annoying because he he turned a
He was,
corner.
he turned a corner and he was gonna.
Like, don't get me wrong, I didn't think he was gonna make it to the end. Thought he was gonna last a bit longer though.
Yeah.
Like I said, I thought he was gonna be like his blood bag, his like feed bag, and there was gonna be. I thought fucking old Bev Keane was gonna be. I thought she was gonna mastermind it. Like, well, we'll just keep him alive.
Yeah.
I thought that. I didn't necessarily think it was gonna be him. I just thought that was the way it was gonna go. That someone would decide.
Like that, yeah. Well, that guy was already giving his blood, wasn't he? I suppose. Well, he wasn't already giving it. The other big bearded man, the fake Joe.
Oh yeah. Can I squeeze down there, maybe? I quite liked the girl who was in the wheelchair, Lisa. I thought she was a good character.
She was a good character.
Especially like towards the end when like she was hitting the fan and she was just like, "Ugh, dude, shut the fuck up!" Like, you know, get your head in the game.
Yeah.
And she was like,
Probably not.
probably not. No.
But like, you know, we're gonna get out of it.
Yeah. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. I wonder what they did.
They probably just went back to the.
They went back to the island.
Maybe got some supplies or something, and then. Yeah, don't know.
Do you think they would have tried to row to the mainland?
I don't know, because
that was
how would they have managed to get?
Right, like you saved yourself, but now what? It's like the fucking ending of Finding Nemo.
Yeah, now what?
Yeah, I don't know if. Because I don't know. Maybe they would have gone back and fixed the tower, or they're young, aren't they? Yeah, you know, text Mark, get some signal, call out for help.
Yeah.
Because there must have been ferries that would go from the main island to there.
Because the way they made, well, because they said, didn't they? They were like, oh, the mayor can like call the thing back in.
Yeah.
It's like, can he?
Are you sure?
I don't know about that. I don't know what I was going to say. Must have been a lie. But yeah, no, I like, yeah. Overall, thoroughly enjoyed. Like, there were a couple of spots where I was just like, yeah, right, you're being very like, being a bit, like, you're reading a lot of scripture, and you're saying a lot of big words I don't really get.
Yeah. I did
Like,
say
you know, is
quite
that
a
my
bit.
fault? And I was like, and I'm like, I feel like, you know, if this was in the Everyman, the Queen's English, probably would have been able to understand the references.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every passage, pardon me, I feel like every passage or everything that they read was like relevant to
Oh god, yeah,
what
yeah,
was
yeah.
about to happen.
It's just the
within
way
those.
that it's written, like words
Yeah.
they were saying, it was a bit harder to
Not the easiest to
understand.
comprehend
Yeah,
for
what
us
they were actually saying.
non-fucking religios.
Yeah.
There's that fucking entrance.
Bum, 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 bum. Okay then.
British gas.
Isn't it? What the hell?
What the fuck?
I still love that they've got some long space.
How's that? Is that alright? Yeah. That's alright, I'll just edit this bit out while I try and reverse park. Smash it. Anything else? Anything else? Would you recommend?
Maybe. I don't know.
That's probably a no then. So.
Well, yes and no.
Well, you can't have that. That's not allowed. That's not the answer.
I'd pre-warn. I'd say if you're happy to sit through a lot of religious talk,
Yeah.
then yes.
I guess it just is just in place of all the other shit that they have long monologues about in Hill House, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's just done a swapsy, but made it a bit more religiosa.
Mm.
But then, you know, maybe that was the point, to like confuse you into just being like, yeah, sure, whatever,
Yeah.
without really knowing, like, a bit.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel like that is what it is like sometimes. If you go to a church, you're like, what the fuck did you just say?
Yeah.
And then you're like,
You're like, yeah.
ah, cool.
I'm
Fuck
in
it.
then.
But yeah, no. I mean, I'd recommend it. I've already recommended it to a few people.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it again, just because, like I said, maybe I think it's a bit like, you know, like Malignant, where I was like, oh, you know, I just really love James Wan. Like, I really love Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
And feel like,
I'm not denying that it is very well done.
yeah,
It's a well done show. It's
just definitely not for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not
for everyone.
No. I'd still recommend it
I'd
for everyone.
say-
Though. I'd say it's worth a watch. I'd say if someone was devoutly religious, maybe avoid it, because
Well,
you might
yeah.
be a little bit offended.
Yeah.
But then maybe watch it, and then maybe you'll gain a new perspective
Yeah,
on things.
exactly.
Who knows? But yeah. Well, I mean, it's on Netflix, isn't it? Like, I feel like I'd say maybe watch the first 2 episodes and see how you get on.
Mm.
Well, I mean, because the third
Yeah.
episode's where you find everything out.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you can't make it through till 3, if you can't make it till 3, then you might as well just give up.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if you've not got to that point where you're like, what the fuck is going on in this island?
Yeah, like I need to
Then-
know more.
Then you're never going to get there.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
well, I mean, we've already said it's vampires. But,
I'd
you
agree
know,
with that.
if you're not going to... Yeah, I feel like it'll either get people straight away or it
If
won't.
you're not drawn in.
Like, there'll be... Because it doesn't end like Hill House, where it's the bent neck lady, or Bly Manor, where it's the lady from the lake at the end to scare. It's just a bloke running through the storm, and you're like, what the fuck? And then it's just a load of dead cats.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else?
No, nothing to add.
No, let's roll. Let's go celebrate Kylie's birthday. Happy birthday, Kylie.
Happy birthday.
That's
It's
right.
party.
And there it was, our driving home review. Very interesting. Was it controversial? Possibly. This is pre-recorded, so deal with it. Anyway, thanks for listening. And if you want to get in touch, give us a follow on Insta, Twitter, or give us a like on Facebook, where we're Driving Home Reviews. It'd be great if you could subscribe and leave a nice juicy 5-star review, and maybe I'll buy you a pint. Is this bribery? Probably. But tune in next time for another Driving Home Review. Bye-bye!